Good evening, Niner faithful, and welcome to another episode of 49ers Mailbag. I'm your host, Rob Schuh. Here we sit at 3-5, fresh off a heartbreaking loss to the Arizona Cardinals, a team that was devastated by injuries, and yet the 49ers still got absolutely destroyed. It leaves the faithful with a lot of questions about this team, and rightly so. As a reminder, the show starts with the previously submitted questions that come in to 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. Through Twitter by hitting me at the left shoe, same spelling as my last name, or leave a comment for me on YouTube below this video for next week. But I also welcome your live questions in the chat. I will bounce back and forth a bit from the previously submitted questions to the ones that are in the chat. As always, if you enjoy the content, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to get notified when I go live. I think of myself as a little pirate radio station. Every time one of you likes a video, comments, or subscribes, it's a small signal boost to my stream, getting my voice out there to more members of the Niner faithful, and I greatly appreciate it. 13 pages of notes to go through here, so let's get started on this one. This first question comes to us by email from Robin P. Robin asks, when I was 15, I received my driver's learner's permit. Dad coached me as I drove and eventually got the coveted driver's license. When Trey Lance arrived in training camp, he received his learner's permit to play quarterback. He has received coaching. When will he be given the keys to permanently drive the team down the field? Seems that Coach Shanahan is sticking to his plan on this one. Bring Trey along at a snail's pace. Not all experience is good experience, Kyle Shanahan told us. On one level, I'm extremely frustrated by the plan and most definitely infuriated by its execution. I struggle with the fact that Coach is letting Lance get 0 snaps, and let me tell you why. It goes back to the preseason, to the draft. Shanahan continued to point out that Jimmy G just couldn't be relied upon. He wasn't able to stay healthy, and hell, he really wasn't even good enough when he did stay on the field. Then you draft a totally inexperienced young gentleman, which is fine. But you proceed to fail in getting him ready for the spot start that you knew was coming. You told us that Jimmy wouldn't stay healthy, that he couldn't stay healthy. Jimmy didn't stay healthy, but you failed to prepare Trey. Some would rightly say that Trey was given chances, and that's fair. He was. He was given snaps in the preseason, but clearly he was not properly prepared to come in when his number was called, and that's on the coaching staff in my book. He shouldn't have been the backup if he was that ill-prepared. You should have had another plan in place. On the other hand, good. If Coach thinks he knows best, then stick with it as far as the plan for Trey Lance. If holding Lance back is truly what Shanahan believes is best for the development of Trey Lance, then stick to it. But he better be right. And we better be able to see flashes of him being right this season. I don't want to go into next year feeling totally unsure about the development of our future star quarterback. The next question comes from Jacob G. with another email submission, my favorite because they're so easy to track. He asks, honest answer, do you see the Niners winning against the Rams? Hope they do, but I do not see how they could. They need to be more than perfect to pull this one off. My honest answer, no, I don't see it. If I were betting on this game along the money line, I'd probably have to take LA, but I remain hopeful. Anything can happen in the NFL. So even if we acknowledge that the Rams are a more talented roster, better coached, and are showing more fight than the 49ers, it's still football. And that ball bounces in funny ways sometimes. The Jags beat the Bills last week. The Rams got humiliated themselves by the very talented Titans team. Underdogs themselves feasted on Sunday. The 49ers, Saints, Chiefs, Rams, Cowboys, and Bills were all favored by 5.5 points or more and all lost on Sunday. It happens. But the 49ers certainly are not favored in this one. +4 home underdogs. Brutal. I'll just say that this team flashes potential. The offense shows bursts of being elite, but they quickly fade as the team commits countless unforced errors. The defense, it's been solid in stretches and then looked completely flat and lifeless in others. For most of the season, I believed that the 49ers could wake up, flip a switch, and the lights would come on. But now I'm starting to wonder if maybe all the light bulbs are burnt out. Let's jump over into the comments, see if we can get to any that you guys have already thrown in there. All right, Jamie, I want to get Jamie Bryan's comment up here. Jamie says, I'm tired of talking. Actions speak louder than words. We talk about stuff from A to Z and nothing helps. Start moving around pieces and or fire. Bring in personnel. Who still knows football operation? So the bottom line being, Jamie wants results. Jamie wants actions. Jamie wants people to lose their heads. And I think a lot of 49ers fans are on that same bus. A lot of people upset with the 49ers, their head coach, and their front office at this point. But there's optimism. Bryant coming in and saying, Rob, dude, we are going to beat the Rams. We always do. I love it. I love that type of optimism for sure. Absolutely. Bryant follows up to say the Rams aren't as good as their record says they are. Well, let's certainly hope that that's the case, because our next question asks what will happen if it doesn't go right. This question comes in from Beto of Niner Sickness. I had the pleasure of joining Beto on his live stream last night. Great dude. Had an excellent time doing the show. Beto's question, submitted through Twitter, is if we lose in an embarrassing way on national television on Monday Night Football against the Rams and heads have to roll, who should be the first person to be fired? D'Amico Ryan, John Lynch, Parag Marath, or Kyle Shanahan? I tend to think, in answer to this question, that no one gets fired midseason. Midseason firings tell the story of an organization that is panicking, and I believe that runs counter to what Jed York wants to communicate to the fan base. Even if Jed is panicking, he wouldn't want to confirm that by firing somebody. It becomes concrete at that point. The last time they fired a coordinator midseason, 2010 with Jimmy Ray. I think most of us remember those years. Those were lean years for sure. I see Kyle's job as more secure. Both he and John Lynch are signed through the 2025 season. They both got extensions. I don't think Jed's eating 4.5 years of salary for both while also paying their replacements as well. That entire 4-year stretch, paying a new coach and the old coaches, Jed's pockets are deep, but I don't know about that. With John, I think he could lose his job at the end of the season. I think Lynch could be a scapegoat end of the year. If things continue to go as they're going right now, I think that's the end game. If you don't get any solid contributions from your first 4 draft picks, I mean, let's look at this. In the last game against Arizona, 6 out of the 8 draft picks from 2021 didn't play a snap on offense or defense. And only Ambry Thomas of those 6 played snaps on special teams. Someone has to answer for that. But it's fair to point out that Jed did specifically look for a head coach and a GM pairing that were highly compatible, rather than the chaos and the infighting that he had in the last regime with Harbaugh and Balky. He saw that dysfunction. He didn't like it. He didn't want that dysfunction in this current regime. And so he purposefully chose John and Kyle, who seemed to get along well. I would say it seems Kyle needs a stronger GM to challenge him. But does Jed specifically want somebody that he gets along with? Did he create an echo chamber effect in doing that? Are John and Kyle too compatible? I think that question doesn't get answered until the end of the year. D'Amico Ryans asked about him specifically. He seems to be another candidate that could get fired at the season end. But I also want to point back to the time in space when there were fans calling out for Robert Saleh's head after his first year as defensive coordinator with the 49ers. Now, it's fair to point out that the roster was barren at that point in time. But let's also be fair and point out that last week's loss, the worst for the defense, was missing 6 of the 11 week 1 defensive starters. Certainly, you have to admit that it's tougher to coach when more than half of your defense is laid up. Parag, that's a complete mystery to me at this point. It seems to be that he and Jed are extremely close. That relationship will probably keep him safe longer than it should. There were some interesting things coming out on Twitter today about the decision to hire Mike Nolan over, I want to say it was Andy Reid or Mike Holmgren at that point in 2004. It doesn't look good in hindsight. But I do predict 0 firings, even if the loss is embarrassing. And I think 49ers fans will be up in arms about that if nobody loses their job after an embarrassment. But how much more embarrassing can it really get after the loss on Sunday? That was the most embarrassing 49ers game I have seen in a long time. The next question comes in from Aaron of 49ers First Takes. I had Aaron on my show Monday night. If you missed it, go check it out. Another excellent dude and a great dialogue on that show. I ask everybody I collaborate with for mailbag questions, and Aaron's question is, if this season ends up going the direction many people think it will, do we blow it all up and start over? Or do we retool and fix our secondary, offensive line, and possibly wide receiver? Judging by the attitudes of everybody involved in the situation, my guess here is a retooling. Kyle and John seem to both believe this roster is talented. I share that belief with them. No question about it. The core seems to be there with this team. A young, promising quarterback, blossoming gem, rookie running back, those two bright spots. Stars at a lot of key positions, left tackle, fullback, tight end, wide receiver. Already mentioned the quarterback and the running back, defensive end, inside linebacker. Some possible up-and-coming talent at defensive back and safety with Talanoa Hufanga and Lenoir. And who knows about Ambry Thomas at this point in time, quite honestly. But let's acknowledge there are a lot of holes. You have to agree that the biggest priority in my book would be cornerbacks, plural, and the offensive line. If Jalen Moore doesn't step up in the absence of Mike McGlinchey, and Aaron Banks stays on the bench, and Alex Mack continues to be inconsistent, we have a lot of holes to fill there on that offensive line. You would think that it would need to be addressed through a combination of both free agents and draft picks in order to address those gaping holes. And you have no first rounder, which truly hurts this year, especially if the 49ers keep losing and that becomes a valuable first round pick. It could be a major retooling bordering on that rebuild. And that would be a real shame. Let's get back into the comments going live here before we get back into our remaining mailbag questions. See what you guys are thinking about now. All right. Jesse coming in. Let's see. What's up, Rob? Love the show. Do you think that Kyle might be trying to get fired? A lot of his decisions don't make sense. I think Kyle is just in desperation mode. No, I don't believe the conspiracy theory that Kyle is attempting to get fired or that he's burning this place to the ground. I think he's burning it to the ground by mistake. I think he's burning it to the ground through desperation. I think Kyle has lost his confidence. And if that's the case, he better find it quick. He better find it in season this year because we need to see that optimism. I need to see the optimism that Bryant continues to see. The 49ers will be solid. I love it. AJB pointing out the last time Jed panicked, he actually gave an offensive coordinator an extension. Bryant coming back in. 49ers need to rebuild the underdog mentality. We need to start thinking we can be better than we are. Yes, mentality has a lot to do with where the 49ers are right now in my book. It has to start with the mentality. It has to start with a fire in their bellies. Has to start with some people running around on the field making things happen. It's got to be attitude. Got to be attitude. Jamie Bryant calling out Rob Schuh, bring in Daboll for head coach, Greg Roman as offensive coordinator, and Harbaugh as GM. Well, that would be a nice pairing. I would love it. I would love it. Eric coming in. Doesn't matter how much talent a team has when the talent is never healthy enough to play together. That is true. This goes back to why I believe John Lynch is deserving of scrutiny at the end of this season. You have an entire draft class that apparently they took because they wanted future stars. They didn't think any of them needed to contribute. I gather that from what Coach Shanahan said at the presser when asked about the rookies not playing. It's very unfortunate that the 49ers believe that to be the case or that they missed on those draft picks. But if you take that in combination with relying upon several stars that were injury prone, I think you have to admit that there were personnel issues on this team. Issues that go back to our GM. So if the draft class doesn't turn around, I think that he has to be held accountable for it. Matt pointing out that, yes, they called up Colton McKivitz. Our savior has arrived. Indeed. Indeed. Eric talking about our first rounder is gone already. It doesn't really matter if it's a high pick or not. We don't have it. But it becomes more painful if it becomes a higher pick. You wouldn't have traded away so many of them if you knew that they were going to be top 10 draft picks. If you knew they were going to be top 10 draft picks, you could probably could have gotten away with only giving away one of them. Getting to another question here in the chat before going back to the previously submitted questions that came into the mailbag. Jesse coming in asking, do you think it's any chance OBJ would want to sign with the Niners? I haven't seen the 49ers listed on his priority for teams. Last I saw, I've heard the rumor about the Patriots and Bill Belichick attempting to sign OBJ. And I saw OBJ claiming that his preference was somewhere between the Saints, the Packers, and another team. I did like Bruce Arians' comment about not bringing OBJ in, that he already had too many letters on his team with AB. That seemed like a little bit of a shot at wide receiver divas. But, you know, Bruce Arians is a popular guy, so I think he can get away with that if it was AB. You know, he loves that team for Tom Brady. I don't think he's there for Bruce Arians anyway, so you don't need that relationship to work out. All right, let's get back to our previously submitted questions before we come back into the chat. Again, if you're just joining the chat, feel free to put your mailbag questions into said chat, and I will get to them in between and then after finishing up these previously submitted questions. Here we go. Bringing this one up. Adam B. on Twitter asks, big picture. The fans tried bullying the team out of the offensive game plan that they've used with success for years. The fans bullied the team out of their base zone defense that had success for years under Robert Saleh. It seems like Kyle's new deal is for this new plan. Would you have changed? So, would I have succumbed to the pressure of the fan base in altering the core offensive game plan of a run-first system and the base defense that was run under Saleh? Adam implies that his observation is changes were not necessarily Shanahan's choice, that it was outside pressures that caused him to make these changes. They blame Jimmy for failing to properly execute the offensive system. And then instead of making it better by drafting someone that fits that offensive system, they go a completely different direction with a mobile quarterback. He points out that while Sherman was 100% old and unathletic, they let him go and they went 100% man coverage instead of replacing him. Everyone just seems out of sorts at this point. I would have hoped that I'd have the resolve to stay the course. That would be my hope, is that I could withstand that pressure. And I hope that Shanahan has had that resolve as well. I hope that he made these choices of his own volition. On offense, I think Shanahan wants execution, but I think he wants execution plus. What do I mean by that? I think he wants somebody that can run the entirety of his offense, execute at the mental level required to process Kyle's answers to the test, meaning he gives his quarterbacks the answers to the test on the field. He just wants them to put those answers, fill in the Scantron bubbles. Shows my age there. But also add the dimension of a running quarterback to that effectiveness. I don't think what we saw of Trey against Arizona in that first time he got on the field really shows what Kyle envisions for the long term. I don't know what the hell that was in that game plan. Kyle Shanahan, I believe, wants a modern day version of John Elway or Steve Young. I think he has the raw talent there, Trey Lance. It's just a question of developing it. Do I have faith that Kyle can successfully develop a rookie quarterback? That's an entirely different question, and I personally haven't seen the evidence of Kyle's ability to do so. On the defense, I tend to think Kyle's hands off on the defense. Everything he says leads us to believe that fact, and probably more hands off than he should be. I attribute the changes to be D'Amico's choice. So far, I am less than thrilled with the results, but I remember feeling similarly about Robert Saleh's defense and his career, and I'm glad that no one acted on that. I'm glad in his first year, people gave him a longer leash, while recognizing that that team was devoid of talent in a way that this team's is not. This team is arguably better than the 2020 defense that was put onto the field, but performing at a much lower clip. I'm going to remain patient with D'Amico Ryans at least through the end of the season. That's my take on it. This next question comes in from East Bay Chris, the loved and equally hated sarcastic voice of 49ers Twitter. If you know, you know. EBC asks, when will it end? For the love of God, please just let me know, when will it all end? It ends when we're all dead and cold, laid down to sleep for the long derp nap, Chris. That's it. That's the end. Being a member of the faithful apparently means pain. It means suffering. It means endless frustration with an organization that used to be elite. Those of us that remember the good old days, today's product is just that much more painful. When I think of Jerry Rice, I have to shed a tear. Inconsistency, false hope, increased ticket pricing. That's our fate as a member of the faithful. But on a brighter note, the rookie quarterback that we seem to refuse to play at this point in time, he looks to be special in my eyes. I have faith in him. Yep, I'm back to being faithful already. A sucker for punishment, Chris. Just call me Chuck Rhodes. Speaking of having faith, a similar question was asked by Don C. on Twitter. People are losing some faith in the San Francisco 49ers. Don C. asks, how can I shake the feeling that we're going down a path that will lead to another period of dark days as an organization? My answer? Have faith. I'm just kidding about that. I'm guessing that there are a lot of people that are going to blow up on that one. I know how people are turning on the 49ers fan slogan of the faithful. They ridicule the idea that we should just all have faith and it will work out. For me, it's more about the eye test on this one. Look for the flashes. It's like when you're looking at the tape of a potential draft pick. You want to know what their ceiling might look like. So you go and watch their highlight reel. You go and watch what are the most spectacular things they've put on tape. That's probably your best case scenario. Your best case scenario is that they play like they did on that highlight reel when they enter the NFL level as well. But it's not an accurate basis for determining that's what they will do, but merely an indication of what they're capable of. I recommend the same thing when you're watching this San Francisco 49ers team. Look at the highlights, then ask yourself, if they could just pull their heads out of their asses for 60 minutes straight, would this be a good football team? My opinion to that is yes. Yes, they would. I see the flashes that indicate talent. My eyes tell me that this is a talented roster that just cannot put it together, because I see the inconsistencies that scream poor discipline, a lack of good coaching. All right, let's jump back into the comments. We're getting some good record number of people in here. Love it. If you have just joined and you do enjoy the content, I welcome you to hit the like button and amplify that voice. It means a great deal to me. It really does. I'm going to get in here and see what people are saying in the chat. Manikov still wanting to fire Kyle. That is his number one priority. Absolutely. I think most people are on board with it is time to let Jimmy G go, particularly at the end of this year. Rick Muniz coming in. Rob, what is your opinion of the Hurd situation? It seems he's not going to play this season. Why is he on this roster? Was it the right decision to keep him? Hindsight's 2020 on this one, and I feel bad for anyone who is suffering through injury. So I'm not going to belittle the guy, but I will say I'm madly disappointed that we can't see him on the field. He appeared to flash greatness. The play that got him injured, that Dallas Cowboys preseason game where he ended up hurting his back. I mean, I get the knee was no contact, but the back injury was one where it was effort. It was him trying to get in the end zone. He appeared to have that zest for football that you want to see, that gamer mentality. But unfortunately, injuries have played out in such a way that you can't count on him. And I do think going forward, the 49ers need to be more careful about relying on players that have long injury histories because they're building a roster that's susceptible to tons of injuries throughout the season, and that's not going to help the 49ers become relevant once again. Kimbo coming in. Let's go. 49ers fan for life. I love it. Tommy, not a big fan of Colton McKivitz. I don't think many people are. If we get to the point where Colton has to step in at tackle, we are in some trouble, I would think. A third stringer, maybe even a fourth if you count Moore as a third string at right tackle. Tony coming in talking about Dayball. Dayball is overrated. Unknown. Greg Roman, not that good. Harbaugh, just let him be a head coach. Oh, wait. Jed won't. Oof. I agree with Bebop Jones. Solid. Didn't do good his first season here either. We do have to be patient with D'Amico Ryans. Ooh, Bryant pointing out that the 49ers have been the West Coast Browns since 2000. That is rough. J-Mad here coming in. I think this is insightful and agreeing with me. J-Mad says, I'm actually glad Lance is not playing versus the Rams. Such a bad matchup for him at this point. Donald and Miller going after him is scary. Let Jimmy take the hits one more game. Yeah, I hope Jimmy doesn't take the hits either. But with Jalen Moore coming in at right tackle, it would seem, although Shanahan did indicate that Aaron Banks is now pushing for that right guard spot, it would seem that Brunskill would be the one to man the right guard spot as well. And so you do have to wonder if it's going to be a turnstile on the right-hand side of the offensive line. Absolutely have to wonder that. AJB on the OBJ situation saying Kyle should mimic Arians, not Belichick on that one. Say hello to CG Ruthless Sports. Hello, CG. And agree with his statement that we need the offense to improve. All right, let's get into these next two questions before we go back to the previously submitted mailbag questions. All right, Jamie Bryant. The reporters asked Kyle Bosa and Warner in certain situations, what can the team do better? They all said they didn't know. No one had answers. This is a great call out, Jamie. It seems as if the 49ers are fairly clueless about why they are where they are at this particular point of time. And you might be able to argue that they're missing some heart, that they're missing some fire. Certainly on defense, they do not appear to be playing with the type of passion that's needed to be successful in the NFL, particularly if you're going to be dinged up. If you're not going to be the most talented team on the field, as the Cardinals were not the most talented team on the field on Sunday, but they were the most motivated. They were the ones that had the greatest fire in their bellies. They were willing to sacrifice their bodies on a regular basis in order to get the job done. They saw that they had a special season brewing and weren't going to allow some injuries to get in their way on Sunday, and they most certainly did not. Hats off to the Cardinals for that one. Let's look at Luke's comment here. All right. If the plan was for development for Trey, does it make one think about firing Kyle if he strays from the plan after giving up so much capital? Straying from his plan may raise more doubts. I do think that there's an interesting angle to this, and it's fair to wonder if Kyle's a little hesitant to start Trey because that really truly begins the countdown on his head coaching career. I heard this on the Athletics podcast, and I think it's an interesting concept that potentially once Trey is in, all of those hopes that we're banking on, me as a 49er faithful fan, looking at Trey and thinking, well, the future is bright because Trey's going to come in. Well, if he does come in, if Kyle says, to hell with it, we're getting the rookie in there, we need to see what we've got, we need to start developing, we got to get him experience, we got to get him some reps. If he comes in and has a bad end of the season, that could deflate our hopes for next year. I mean, it could get real bleak. So for that reason, I do hope that Kyle sticks to his guns and only plays Trey when he believes him to be ready. And again, he's got to be right about that. If he's wrong, we need to hold him accountable. But you got to stick with Kyle on this because as bad as we are right now, as bad as this situation seems, it gets worse if you mess up the rookie. It gets worse if you handle that any more poorly than you already have. So if you're going to trust Kyle to develop the rookie, I think you have to allow him to do it in the way he sees fit. You have to give him, enough chance to harm himself in that way. Getting back into our previously submitted questions, this one is a good one. I like the angle. Too Tall on Twitter asks, do you feel if we had reporters in the locker room, we would have a better sense of what's going on? There's something fishy brewing, Too Tall says. Too Tall, I think you are absolutely onto something right here. Yes, wholeheartedly yes. Oh my God, yes. We are missing out on so much without reporters in the locker room. Absolutely. In particular, in a season like this, where you wonder if players are losing heart, you wonder how they feel about one another, you wonder how they feel about the coaching staff. The vast majority of communication is nonverbal communication. As much as 93% if you listen to the experts. Reading the body language of players is very telling, especially when they're not in front of cameras. At the podium, they know that they're being watched closely, so they're very guarded. When they come to the podium, they're there for 60 seconds, 5 minutes, and they protect themselves. They put on a stoic face, game face. They answer the questions with as few words as possible. They give you honest answers. They give you good stuff, but you're not getting the real deal. Inside the locker room, more stuff comes out, even if they don't intend it to, simply because of the way in which people react naturally to the loss, how they carry themselves, whether they keep their heads up or heads down. That body language is there and can be interpreted. And we have some fantastic beat writers that are capable of delving into that and getting us further answers. I pray that the NFL lets reporters back in, and I hope that it's soon. I can't imagine it's this season, and it makes you wonder whether they will ever give that access back, because the tendency is once you lose something like that, not to get it back. But I can't wait for the tell-all book that comes out about this team, about this season. I hope we're looking back from a franchise that has recovered their glory at that point, but it's tough to say right now. Rich M on Twitter asks, is Kyle Shanahan too impulsive? And my answer to this is split. I'd say in some ways, yes, he is. And in other ways, no, he's not. In-game play calling, yes, he is too impulsive. And it's bothering me to no ends right now, 49er faithful. If your offensive identity is the run game, stop getting away from the run game so damn early. Make the opposing team actually stop you. Kyle stated after the Arizona game that you can't run against the fronts that Arizona was presenting on defense without ending up in a lot of 3rd and 12s. And that may be true, but prove it. Prove the theory. The first run of the night, which was versus the Cardinals against that same 8-man box or 6-man front, whatever you want to call it, that same look, Mitchell broke the first tackle and went for 9 yards. So you can't run against that. The next 5 were passes. What happened with that? On the other hand, when we're talking about being impulsive, Kyle has not been impulsive with the larger decisions. His resolve on how to develop the young rookie quarterback, right or wrong, and believe me, a lot of 49ers faithful believe that it is wrong, he hasn't wavered on the slow roll approach that he's taken. He hasn't wavered on the slow roll approach for really any of the rookies. And I am critical of that decision, but he's not wavering on it. He's not going back and forth. He's not being impulsive. We won't really be able to judge this strategy accurately until we see it unfold completely, because we don't know. There could be a reason none of the rookies are playing. They could all be terrible. That could be a reality. I don't think that's a reality, but they may not be better than the players in front of them. And until we see them on the field for considerable lengths of time, we won't really be able to judge that for ourselves. Certainly the coaching staff gets the most looks at those individuals on some level. Without access to that practice film, you can't really definitively answer it. If they get cut by the team, if they get on the field finally and don't play well, then we'll have definitive answers about just how bad this draft class was. And again, if you hit a home run on Trey Lance and Elijah Mitchell, we may forget about the 6 other draft picks. We may be okay. If you hit that home run on Trey, it's really going to make a difference for this organization. I would say that the early returns are not good on the draft class, on playing the rookies, but Kyle seems to be much more stubborn than impulsive when talking about that. Our last previously submitted question. No, we had a couple more. One of our last previously submitted questions, and we'll get back into the chat. So if you have your questions, throw them into that chat. John S. from Twitter has given up on 2021 in its entirety and is on to 2022. I can't really fault him for that. I'm just kidding, John. I don't know if that's true, but honestly, I couldn't fault any 49er fan for doing that if they had. John asks, I won't be up that late for the show, but who are 2 realistic free agents that SF could target this offseason? I like J.C. Jackson and Emmanuel Ogbah. It's too early for me to accurately say who the 49ers will go after in free agency, because you really don't actually know who's going to make it to free agency at this point. A lot of teams will re-sign those players that they value within their organization, and they may not even make it to free agency. But talking about it from a position standpoint, I totally agree about targeting the defensive backs. That has to be a big priority for the San Francisco 49ers. And I do like the idea of getting established veterans that you're more confident can actually play. The 49ers invested a 3rd and a 5th round pick into cornerbacks this season. However, apparently they did so with the intention that they'd be backups this year. And granted, if Jason Verrett and Emmanuel Mosley and K'Wan Williams stayed healthy throughout the entire season, that's a fair strategy. Those guys are all starting level cornerbacks within the NFL. The problem is that Emmanuel Mosley, of the bunch, he's had the healthiest stretch. K'Wan Williams and certainly Jason Verrett have long injury histories. Jason Verrett with a lot of season-ending injuries. So that strategy to rely upon him was the weak link in my opinion. It was strategically the weak link. Had he been on the roster as someone that if he stays healthy, it's a bonus, great. He's an amazing shutdown corner when healthy. The when healthy is few and far between with Jason Verrett, unfortunately. It's really unbelievable to me that basically the entire 2021 draft class was apparently taken without that intention of playing them right away. It's nuts. So let's actually fill some holes on this team. Let's be clear, it is full of holes for 2022. I believe that the Niners are projected to be roughly $8.5 million over the cap for 2022, with only 31 or 32 players signed for next season. So once you release Jimmy, you get a huge chunk of money back, but it's going to be challenging. You're going to need to use draft capital as well as free agency dollars to fill all of these holes. I agree that cornerback is a top priority. After that, I think you're spot on. Defensive end, as you suggest, makes a ton of sense. To have a bookend opposite of Bosa, I mean, it would seem with D Ford going back on IR, even though he could be back this year, you would think he should ride off into the sunset after this season. I'm thrilled that we got anything out of D Ford this year. You certainly thought he could retire, that we had seen the last of him in a 49er uniform. And then Ebukam, he's yet to step up. So I don't know that you can say he's going to be that bookend either. I was optimistic coming into the season. But if not, if no changes for Samson Ebukam toward the end of the season, really growing into that role, I do think you need to address that other defensive end. And then offensive line feels like a huge need. I mean, huge. You have to use significant assets to refill it. You may need to replace center, right guard, and right tackle if it turns out that Mike McGlinchey's injury is one he can't return from, or Jalen Moore struggles and can't grow into that role. It could get bleak. You may not just be filling one role. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic the 49ers can get that done. Why? I don't know why. I honestly couldn't tell you that. All right, last previously submitted question before a couple late submissions that I got in there with brief answers to it. But this one comes in from Don C on Twitter asking, when's the last time Jimmy G attempted a play action bootleg? That was a staple of the Shanahan playbook. Now it seems Kyle's offense has adapted a drop back passing game. What gives? This comes back to offensive identity for me. Everything in the Shanahan offense builds from the run. The seeming refusal to stick with the run game has led to a disjointed offense to this point in the season. The run game is the foundation. Right now, it feels like the 49ers are attempting to build a raggedy house on top of a cracked and failing foundation. Get back to what you do well. Run the damn ball, 49ers. Don't stop until the opposing team proves that they can stop it. Because quite honestly, with what I see and the talent that we have, it fits this identity of being able to run the ball. Don't outsmart yourself. Don't pivot before it's necessary. Force the other team to really prove to you that they can stop the run before scheming around it and saying, well, there's 6-man box, 8-man box, 6-man front. We can't run into that. If the run game is your identity, don't let other teams dictate what you do. Stick to your strength and make the other team adjust. It's the way good teams operate. All right, let's get into the comments before we get to late submissions here. Ooh, look at that. We have a super chat. 49ers first takes. Appreciate that. Your apology is accepted. No need to submit the money with the apology. I appreciate you joining us regardless. Thank you for the donation, Aaron. Greatly appreciate it. All right, Eric comes in and getting to a little bit of juice. Juice said in an interview yesterday that Kyle does have input on defensive plays during games. That's interesting because he seems to shirk the responsibility in the post-game pressers. It makes you wonder if he's just not being a great leader in that instance, right? If you do have input, then take it squarely on the chin. Do not deflect and make it seem like you're blaming D'Amico Ryans for everything. That is unacceptable in my book. That is not how I prefer my leaders to act. Okay, CG Ruthless comes in and says, when will Kyle start to play Trey without looking back? I have to think that it's when they are both mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, which again will not happen for a long time. That's two things need to be fulfilled. One, we have to be mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, whenever that is. Two, Kyle has to really believe that Trey is ready to start. Whether he's saying that or truly believes it, that has been his modus operandi to this point. And I believe him that he believes that he thinks Trey is not ready. I don't think Kyle is intentionally trying to lose games. I think he would do whatever he thought would help him win games at this point. I see a dejected Kyle Shanahan that is desperate for answers. So I believe that Kyle is not playing Trey because he thinks he doesn't give him the best chance to win. So I think both of those things have to change before Kyle looks to Trey without looking back. You could see end of the year putting him in, regardless of whether he feels he's ready. I don't know if he'll get pressured into it. That'll be interesting from my perspective. Whether Jed York steps in at any point and says, no, you need to start the clock on Trey now. I wouldn't put it past Jed York to do that. All right, Brandon, a Colts fan coming in. Got to respect that. Colts fan here. Been tuning in since we played you guys. My dad was born in San Fran, so it's hard for me to hate on them. I have no reason to anyways. Well, Brandon, we appreciate you being here. We appreciate you getting your Niner info from our channel, and we welcome all fans of the NFL. And hell, even if you don't like football, if you just like me, you're welcome to this show. But Brandon, as a Colts fan, man, we want DeForest Buckner back. Can we have him back? Could we just swap? Could we undo the trade at this point? That would be nice. It would be nice. Bryant calling out the teams aren't always plug and play. Teams need chemistry with fellow teammates. That's a great call out and something that does appear to be missing within the 49ers organization. I think that the 49ers are missing some chemistry. They're missing some fire. They're missing a lot of what is needed to play hard on that football field. And they're searching for answers. I just hope leaders are born within the organization, that this pressure forms diamonds and somebody is able to step up. Jesse comes in with the question, if we somehow beat the Rams Monday, does that change your view of this team? For me, my view hasn't changed. My view hasn't changed in that I still think this is a talented team. I still think this is a team of making a run. I don't know if that run will be sufficient to get them into the playoffs. Definitely don't know if it will be sufficient to beat anyone in the playoffs, but I see the talent there. So no, a victory Monday wouldn't change my opinion. It would just spark the fire in me that maybe I was right. The 49ers could flip a light switch and the lights would come on. It depends how they win the game. That absolutely plays into what my impression will be of this organization after the game on Monday night. Everybody's going to be watching, so I can't believe that they would put up as embarrassing of a game as they did against the Arizona Cardinals. That seems highly unlikely to me. Tommy, however, feels that it's going to be an outcome that embarrasses the 49ers. The Rams are going to blow us out 50-13. Heads will roll potentially if that happens. If we get embarrassed that badly, I know I said it earlier, probably not. If we got embarrassed that level, maybe I hadn't even considered 50-13. Maybe somebody does get fired. I don't think so. I'm sticking with my gut. Nobody gets fired early because Jed doesn't want to look like he is panicking. All right, Jamie coming in at Rob Schuh. If we played like this in the glory days, we would be laughed out of Candlestick and all the other stadiums. Shaking my damn head. 49er faithful are frustrated. Niner sickness, what's good? Good afternoon. Niner sickness, how you doing? I am doing well tonight. Thank you for asking. Absolutely. Hope you're doing well as well. All right, Rick coming in. I believe we should hold ourselves to the golden standard and not be told to have blind faith. What can us as fans do about this? I think it's good to be hopeful. It's good to believe that your team is going to be competitive, is going to win, but take the blinders off. Don't be afraid to be critical. Just because I'm positive and prefer a glass half full way of looking at things doesn't mean I won't be critical of the 49ers. It doesn't mean that I'm going to turn a blind eye when I see incompetence or a player that's not playing up to the level I think they're capable of, or a coach that doesn't seem to be holding people accountable and can't seem to take responsibility themselves. I will call those things out, but I remain a fan. I will never root for a loss. I know that there are fans who are saying, well, maybe I'm hoping for a loss so that Trey Lance can come in after that. Don't count me in that book. I am never, even when the 49ers lost out on the first overall pick for Myles Garrett, I was at that game when Cap ran around the end and took the ball into the end zone. I cheered my head off before realizing, we just cost ourselves the number 1 overall pick. I can't root for it. I can't root for the 49ers to lose. So I stay hopeful, but I think that we have to be critical of this organization. We have to hope that they can turn it around. We can't have much influence other than not going to the games, not buying the gear, and protesting from a financial standpoint. But to me, I love the gear too much. I'm a sucker for punishment. I just can't help myself. I can't. All right, Daryl Q coming in. If you could do the draft over, would you still take Lance at 3? Does Fields' progress change your mind? It does not. I had asked for Lance prior to the draft. You can go back and check my first funny video where I had a draft pick in an envelope to signify the A.J. Jenkins pick and ended up taking Trey Lance. That wasn't because I thought the 49ers were going to take him, although I did. It was because that's who I wanted them to take as well. So yes, I would still take him. I still see that same ceiling. I still see the highlight tape that fits within what Kyle Shanahan's offense asks of their quarterbacks. I see someone who could be that modern day John Elway, Steve Young type of quarterback, more along the lines of a Dante Culpepper, perhaps in the size and the way in which he runs than the other two. But the arm strength and the arm talent of Steve Young, of John Elway, I see that potential from Trey. I know he's got a lot of mechanics to work out there yet. Mr. Fang just wants to know, have we fired anybody yet? No, but it could be coming. It could, in fact, be coming. All right, let's see. Mr. Fang comes back in. Hi, Rob. Hope all is well, fam. Don't mind me. I'm just here to bust Jed and Kyle's something a little. Hey, they deserve it at this point in time, don't they? Debo Samuel fan coming in. Am I the only one who believes that if this team is going to win, then Kyle is going to have to drop the ego for the betterment of the team? No, you are not alone there. I have seen from Kyle a bit of humility come forward in his most recent pressers. I think there's a chance that this is just what the doctor ordered, that maybe Kyle gets a taste of humble pie. And maybe that's exactly what he needs to grow into the coach and leader that he could become. I don't think many people dispute Kyle's skills as an offensive play designer. It used to be you could say he was a great play caller as well. This season, I don't think you can say that. I don't think he's had the play calling magic, the mojo this year. But as a leader of men, as a head coach, I think it's been fair to question him all along with the attitude that he puts off. I hope that, in fact, this humble pie has changed him. Swift Dog 49er coming in. Josh Norman needs to go. Will cost us games. I agree with this. I don't know what the point is of having Josh Norman in there at this point. I just don't know what he brings to the field that you can't get from one of the rookies that has excitement, that gives us some hope, that might get better. Josh Norman is not improving at this stage of his career. He's probably falling off minute by minute, right? He gets older and older and older, and slower and slower and slower, and more likely to grab the defender as he runs by him each time. I don't know what the upside is with Josh Norman, but I see incredible downside to this point. So yes, to me, get the rookies in. What are we waiting for there? I understand that Lenore was intended to be a slot corner, but guess what? He played pretty well on the outside too. I think he could play up to the level that Josh Norman is playing. He seemed like a more sure tackler. We shall see going forward. Ellis 10 coming in. What's up? How you doing? Glad you're here for sure. All right, Luke Walsh coming in. A GM drafts a player. The player prepares very hard to be good, but it doesn't quite work out. Is the player a bust, or is it the GM that drafted him a bust? You know, these are complex questions that we try to answer simply, and that's the problem. It requires a great deal of nuance to really understand whether it's a player's fault, a coach's fault, or a GM's fault. And it requires a lot of inside information that, quite honestly, we don't have at this point. So you have to wonder, will we get the story later on? And sometimes the question is answered for you by them going to another team and having success. And then you can definitively say, well, it must have been the coaching staff's failure to get it out of that player at that time. Niners sickness back in question for you. Why have Greg Papa as the voice of the 49ers when they should have hired you, Rob? I don't know. My phone didn't ring. Or maybe I saw the 415 area code 650 and I forgot to pick up. I thought it was spam. I should call Jed and let him know I'm available. Todd Keese, let's go. Let's go. All right. People talking in the chat. I love it back and forth. Dina, how you doing? Saying hello to Niner Sickness. Niner Sickness saying hello back. I love the friendly nature of that chat. All right. Let's get into George Garcia here. Suppose the Niners fire Kyle Shanahan. Would you bring back Jim Harbaugh? What do you think he would be able to do with this team and Trey Lance? I would bring back Jim Harbaugh in a heartbeat. I'm a big Jim Harbaugh fan. I didn't like it when we ran him out of town. I thought we should have gotten rid of Trent Baalke at the time, but we didn't. I just don't know that you can repair that bridge. I think you burned it. Jed burned it. CG Ruthless back in. I am wondering why they stopped playing Trey Sermon. You figure he could complement Elijah Mitchell. Thank you. You would think it's an ideal thunder and lightning pairing. You would think that it's a matchup that you would take some weight off of Elijah Mitchell's shoulders, who has been getting nicked up in these games. It would seem to be a great way to spell the rookie, to have someone who can run between the tackles, a little bit more power. But no, 0 snaps. It's so confusing. And until we see him play more, we'll be unable to truly answer whether it's a talent issue, an effort issue, or a coaching issue. Ellis, some interesting trends after this past loss. Lack of player leadership, Kyle not taking the blame, players not showing energy on the field, pointless penalties, just embarrassing. Very well summed up there, Ellis. It was embarrassing. It was an atrocious game. It really, really was. All right, getting back into George. Suppose the 49ers fire Kyle Shanahan. Would you bring back, that's the same one. Yes, I would bring back Jim Harbaugh. Absolutely. Avatar calling out, with continued Kyle's ego, I can see a messy divorce. Yes, if this ends, it would seem that it would end badly. A lot of years remaining on both John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan's contract. They just sold Jed York on a long-term plan to draft an inexperienced rookie quarterback that needed a ton of development, and they got the seal of approval from Jed York to do that. Now it would seem that that plan is not going how you might want it to. Will Jed pull the strings on that? Will Kyle start blaming others? It could get ugly. Ellis, I like this. I am still positive something will change. I like it. I am trying to stay positive on that for sure. For sure. Dina coming in. I'm good. Niner Sickness wanted to give Mr. Schuh a try. Well, thank you for the tryout. I still want to know where is Sermon, as do we all. Like I was just saying, I think you have to wait until he gets some extended run time. But if he comes in and lights it up while he's in there, or even just does what he did when he came in before, which was play well and average above the league average in runs, yards per carry, you'd have to wonder, why did it take so long to get there? You would have to wonder. Bryant repeating the statement, 49ers will beat LA. Beat LA. Beat LA. Beat LA. Yes, indeed. I sure hope they do. Why is it so fun to chant beat LA? That goes back a long ways, I hear. I think to the Philadelphia 76ers, random enough, but many years ago, and now everybody chants it. Beat LA. It's an easy city to dislike. Daniel Martinez, Kyle thinks his only good running back is Mitchell. This pisses me off. He should keep pounding the rock using Mitchell primarily, but also involving Hasty, Wilson, and Sermon. The system is the one that works. Thank you, Daniel. This is a well-said comment, and this is exactly how I feel. That even if Elijah Mitchell is the clear favorite and is obviously head and shoulders above the others, why not spell him a bit? Why not get the others a few carries to take the load off? This is one of the only years I've seen in Kyle Shanahan's history where he has really gone to that bell cow approach. It does seem reminiscent of his dad with Terrell Davis, and maybe they found that level of a star. But even so, wouldn't it be nice to keep him fresh? Wouldn't it be nice to keep him healthy? I feel like it would. Avatar agrees. Kyle's going to get Mitchell hurt by only playing him. Need to distribute. Daryl Q, where are the naked bootleg rollouts? I'd love to get Trey Lance in between the 40s on 2nd and short and get a naked bootleg rollout. That would be fantastic. Ooh, Niner sickness. My internet connection is failing at the moment. I hope it has gotten better. I truly do. Let me know in the chat if it is struggling. I've got it hardwired in, so it may just be whoever is my internet provider. I can't even remember at this point, but they're bums if they can't get me good internet because I pay a premium. Ellis10, do you believe that Kyle Shanahan is overthinking himself? He knows what I know, so I should not do what he thinks I will do. Shaking my head. Yeah, it really is, in my opinion, just that way. That he is trying to guess. It's like the Princess Bride, the scene where he's trying to guess the poison. He's like, but you think that I think that you know that what I know, but what I'm going to do is opposite of what you think I'm going to do. Instead of just running the ball, instead of just keeping it simple and making sure that you run it down their throats. Run it down their throats. Ooh, I'm glad to hear that there's a good connection for other people. Maybe it is singly for Niner sickness. Maybe it's that internet connection. All right. Let's see this. Ooh, party bus shout out. Everyone on the party bus gets a shout out. Ruthless Sports. I was on the party bus with you during the Cardinals game. That was probably a sad return trip from the party bus. Absolutely. All right, looking at the chat, getting in the questions. Got to go past. Okay, here's a prediction on the Rams. Daniel Martinez, only way to beat the Rams is pound the rock consistently. Throw in Moore as right tackle, get Mitchell, Wilson, and Hasty all involved, and bring back the jet sweeps with Debo and Ayuk. Play action will also open up. This is the no-brainer that I'm talking about. It would seem that we all know this is what the 49ers should do. It feels like the right choice. And so far, when they're able to stick to it, nobody's stopping them, but they get away from it themselves. They are outsmarting themselves at this point. Okay, here we go. Luke Luna coming in. Rob, if he was going back and forth, I'd question Kyle even more. If he doesn't want to play the rookie and that was his plan, then he shouldn't. 100%. That's what I'm saying. That is what I am saying there. A little bit of mention of Arden Key in there, getting that sack. John, Arden Key got a sack last game, I believe. Simple bull rush. We need production from that other side of the line. Other side of the line. Tommy coming in passionately. We are not a goddamn drop back passing team. What are we, KC without the best quarterback in the league? Yeah, let's get to the run. Let's get to the run game and stick with it, please. Please. Uh-oh, Mr. Fang making fun of our move away from Harbaugh. So glad we got rid of the bum. 8-8 Harbaugh for a 3-4 year. 3-4 Kyle. Yeah, it was a rough decision there to move on from Harbaugh in his first non-winning season. That was, in fact, 500. Since then, it has been rough. All right, Niner sickness. Why are we giving up on the season? We can still turn it around. Absolutely. We just want to see flashes. We just want to see the turn the corner. I am not giving up on this season. There's more than half of it remaining. We've only played 8 games. There are 9 games left. The 49ers can absolutely turn this around and need to give me optimism for next year. There's still a chance of making the playoffs, and I'm keeping my hope alive for that. My hopes. 1 game back. They should be able to be in that mix. I think right now it's the Panthers sitting at 4-4 or 4-5, whatever they are, 1 game ahead. I don't have faith in the Panthers holding on to that spot, do you? But my problem with having hope for that 7th playoff seed is what can we do with it once we get there? In my belief, if we have not properly prepared Lance by that point, I don't give us too much of a shot against most of the teams in the NFC in the playoffs. But if we can build up Lance and somehow make the switch to a player that gives us significantly more shot plays by the time we make it to the playoffs and nobody has tape on him defensively so that they can scheme around him, you could go on a run there. You could win 3-4 games in a row before anyone figures out how to really play against Lance. That's my hope. That is my moonshot for this season, and I'm going to hold on to it. I am absolutely going to hold on to it. Niner Sickness, I most definitely need to subscribe to your YouTube channel then, my friend. Ooh, you're talking to another person in the chat. But yes, if you haven't subscribed here, subscribe here as well. Bob Money, we need to eliminate all the 49er homers. We wouldn't have a show if that were the case because I am a 49er homer, unfortunately. I think most of you know that by now, though. Not anything shocking at this point. Tom coming in to say hi. Hello, Tom. Nice to see you in here. Appreciate you coming in. I love the back and forth in the chat. People saying hello, talking to each other, saying what's up, getting the dialogue going. All right, keeping scrolling, getting to the questions here. We are about 15 minutes behind, so don't worry. We are going to catch up in here. Okay, Niner Sickness saying, DeMeco Ryans the last person to be blamed, in my opinion. I got to disagree on that one a little bit in that if the defense continues to put on the field what we're seeing to this point in the last couple of games, in particular against Arizona, I've got to put some blame on him. If the defense begins to play as they did the first game against Arizona, then I'm on board with DeMeco. I think the book is not written on DeMeco Ryan. I think that there's a lot that we need to see in order to decide at the end of the year. I'm not pulling the cord on him at any point in the middle of the season. I don't think that's fair to him. If that was the case, then you should have known coming in you didn't want a rookie defensive coordinator. And they brought in some people to help back him up. There are some senior assistant coaches in there. The defensive run game specialist is a gentleman who has been a defensive coordinator twice before. So there's experience in the building. And Kyle, quite frankly, needs to step up and help on that side of the ball. Absolutely. Randon coming in. Hey, Rob, can't wait to have you on the pod. Yes, going to be headed over to do another pod at 7 p.m. tonight. Please join us there. Eric, if the 49ers drafted Fields, he'd just be on the bench right now, too. I think that is probably true. Probably true. Okay, Jesse coming in. Norman and Kirkpatrick both have injuries. Do you think Lenore or Thomas get the start? I got to think Diamador or Lenore. It seems Ambry Thomas is really buried and just going to be a special teams ace. That is it. Ooh, look at this. I'm sorry, Tommy, that I didn't get to this before. Super chat in the house. Thank you, Tommy Huxley. Just to say, Josh Norman is a scrub. I have to agree. I don't like to insult players, but I don't think scrub is being too harsh. I think that's fair. And I'm pretty irritated with Josh Norman after what he pulled on the field, being such a bonehead out there. For a veteran supposed to be a leader on the defense, that's tough. That is real tough. Why not roll with the rookies at that point? All right, Rick is irritated. Even if this team wins out, I still want Kyle gone. Guy is just not a head coach. He does lack some leadership qualities. I will agree with you there, but I believe people are capable of significant change. And I hope Kyle is capable of that change. I hope that slice of humble pie is just what he needed. Harold coming in. Hello, Harold. Perhaps the 49ers players get a spark since they know it is a nationally televised game. Hate for an embarrassing loss on national TV. Hope the Niners wake up, bring heart, and fight to the game. Here is to you, Harold. I am with you wholeheartedly on that one. We need to see fight in this team. We need to make sure that we don't get embarrassed against a division rival on Monday Night Football. That would be unacceptable. All right, Bob Money throwing it back. Fire Kyle, John Lynch, and Jed York. The Yorks are doing a most hopeless job ever. Give the damn team back to Eddie DeBartolo, the rightful owner. If only we could bring Eddie D back. Norm Vasquez asking, will they keep Jalen Hurd next year? I don't think so. They did some cleaning of house of injured players, but they brought back Mostert, who I love, but has an injury history. Jason Verrett, again, great player, significant injury history. And Jalen Hurd. I think you have to move on from that strategy. You must get past it. You've got to have bodies on the field. That's the most important thing. Availability. Frank Allen pointing out Jim Harbaugh never coming back. I have to agree with you there, Jim. Have to agree with you there. All right, scrolling through. All right, Mr. Fang coming back in. At Rob, I don't know if Harbaugh is the answer. I was very upset over his firing, but Jed cut Jim way too short, and it would be cool to see him have a comeback. I agree. I just don't know if you can unburn that bridge. I think that you hurt his ego, and you would think that that's enough for him to stay away and see our organization as a poor workplace environment for himself. All right, Ace Bra saying that we need to fire Lynch. All right, there's nothing vulgar in here. We need to fire Lynch and get GM with a set. Trade Armstead for a second and Kittle for a second hit this offseason. Get best cornerback and defensive end in free agency. I don't know that we have the money to get the best cornerback and defensive end in free agency. We may be up against it, unfortunately, this offseason. I am not on board just yet with firing Lynch, but if none of the draft picks work out, he's got to be the guy who takes the fall in my mind. You cannot miss on the vast majority of a draft and make unacceptable trades, acquisitions. Just too many misses that people have to start answering for. Have to start answering. All right. Excuse me. Ellis pointing out, hit that like button. It does help. I always like to throw those comments up on the screen just to remind folks, if you do like the content, to hit that like button. Definitely not trying to pressure anybody into it. Ooh, Jets gang is in the chat. Why are the Jets better than the Niners? The answer to this is expectations. Jets fans came in thinking it was going to be a rough year. 49ers fans came in thinking playoffs. Playoffs? At this point, the pain is being felt by the 49er faithful. No question. All right. Karthik pointing out, Fred got to start taking more of that leadership role. Not saying that he's not, just got to hype up the D more and put some confidence into them. Go Niners. I love that statement. I think it reflects where we are as a defense. Someone needs to step up as a leader. And Fred Warner, after that contract that he just signed, is a prime candidate. He seems to fit the bill. I believe he does need to exhibit more fire on the field. He needs to somehow get his teammates more fired up. We need to see people running around, as many like to say, with their hair on fire. It's not going to work for me, unfortunately, unless, this hair, maybe. But I don't want to burn my beard. Here we go. Bob Money saying this team needs a fresh new rebuild. Got to get rid of a lot of people. I do not blame people for getting to that point. I get the frustration. Bat Dad, Princess Bride, perfect example. Cost Kyle 2 Super Bowls. Clown. Tom pointing out Compton's out. It's probably the one piece of injury news that 49ers fans would celebrate would be the loss of Tom Compton and his availability for the next game. I think we all want to see Jalen Moore. Why not at this point? Why not? Eric pointing out, I don't see any way we stop the Rams if Ward and Tart aren't back by then. That's a big loss. Of those 6 players that were out, having your 2 veteran safeties out, that's tough to win when that's the case. I'm not making excuses. It was embarrassing on the field, but I do think when you get reinforcements back, that's going to help your effort. Certainly could help the fire of the team. Jimmy Ward may be back. Karthik coming in. My opinion, Jed getting fired by the end of the season because he is the one that drafted Trey and all these rookies. No production, no nothing. I think what Karthik meant there was John Lynch and not Jed York there. So yes, I would agree. If you don't see considerable improvement by the end of the season, you have to wonder if someone's head's going to roll, and Lynch would seem like a primary candidate. If it's only the defense struggling by the end of the year, maybe it's D'Amico Ryans, but Lynch seems like a primary candidate. People not having faith in calling out except Hufanga being a bright spot there. Indeed. All right. Okay, Luke Luna, I like this one. I'm gonna go for it. I come from a time where you defend your team no matter what. It's okay to admit we're bad, but team bashing, death threats, and fan hates is fair weather. Fans forgot you're supposed to clown other teams and fans. Well, I mean, besides the ending there, which, I get not bashing other teams, but friendly trash talk of other teams, I fully support. But the first part, couldn't agree more here, Luke. That's what I don't get about the hate. I get the frustration, but it's our team. We are the faithful. The extreme, especially anything that is player directed, spite towards them individually as people, I got to ask for those that are feeling that way to reconsider. Consider what Luke is pointing out here, that like, this is your family, this is your team, this is your crew that you're rolling with. Yeah, you can be critical. Yeah, you can grab them by the scruff of their collar and shake them and say, hey, wake up, we need you to play better. But you do it with love. You do it with the support because you want that team to win. All right, Chris Sanchez coming in. Rob, what do you think happens if we lose to LA? Start Trey? I don't think it impacts Shanahan. And if he believes the best course of action is starting Jimmy, good, stick with it. Whatever I say shouldn't affect what Coach Shanahan does. Whatever the faithful say shouldn't impact what Coach Shanahan does. He should do what he thinks is right. And if he's wrong, he should answer for it. That's my belief. Stick to your guns, do what you believe, and be ready to face the consequences if what you believed was a bad strategy, if what you executed on didn't work. Ace bruh coming in. I hope when Trey plays, does a lot of play action and under center. That was totally missing from the game he came in, and it was very frustrating to me. I agree with this statement that you want to see him under center with the play action. He did it so well in college. So well. That was why I thought it made sense to draft him, because he had the most experience under center play action. Ellis 10. The stadium was clearing out in the middle of the third quarter. If this keeps up, the 49ers won't have support from their fans by the end of the season. That's a bummer. I'm sorry, but I don't leave games early. Never in my life have I left a game before the final whistle. Not even when I'm there with people who want to leave early. That's just not how I roll. I stay till the end. They don't get to pack it in. They may show a lack of heart. I may be disappointed, but I stick it out, man. That's just how I roll. I'm not going to criticize directly those who choose otherwise. I just don't understand it. I don't understand not being there for that support for those players that are going through some hard times. Karthik, Rob, did you see how Ufunga was running like a chicken with his head cut off, like his hair was on fire? Half the time, I don't think he fully understands his assignment. He just runs around the field. It is a blessing and a curse a bit. I love the energy. We need more of that. And he was out of position several times. So there's a balance there. As of right now, I do think it's probably more important that we get fire from more players, because honestly, the tackling and the missed assignments, it's flat. The defense seems flat at this point in time. Bryant talking about the 49ers messed up when they tried to trade Harbaugh to the Browns for a first-round draft pick. That absolutely was the start of the end, wasn't it? All right. Bob Money saying Jimmy G homers have been eliminated. Jimmy wasn't the issue against Arizona, was he? He was pretty good, until that bonehead interception, which was in garbage time anyway. It seems pretty good. Niner Faithful coming in. Rob, what are your thoughts on this mock trade? Kittle for Xavier Howard in the offseason. I remain a Kittle fan. I'm not going to call myself a Kittle apologist, because I admit his flaws and I see his inability to stay healthy as being a concern, but I also attribute it to his physical playing style, and that's what I love about him so much. So I wouldn't trade that physical playing style for someone who played all 17 games. Now, if the injuries continue, I will be wrong about that, and I will freely admit it. My hope is that he stays near the league average. Missing 2 games in the NFL is average. That is what every player averages out to within the NFL. Now, a lot of that is players missing the entire season, then averaged with players who play all of the games. But many players on many teams will miss 2 to 3 games a season. And I don't think that we can really label that as injury prone. If he continues to miss 6, 7 games a season, I will have to admit that I was dead wrong on not making this move if it ever became available to the 49ers. Ace bruh coming in. Lynch needs to go. Find an experienced GM. Tired of these first-time everything. Shaking my head. He could end up answering for it at the end of the year. Oh, gee, Allah, you should tell Jack and crew not to air same time as you. My bad. Hopefully you can come back and watch those of us at different times. Ooh, I'm getting this banner off of here. Look at that. Get that out of there. Get that out of there. Okay, here we go. Niner sickness. But keep in mind, D'Amico Ryans is a first-time coordinator. What I meant is he should not be a scapegoat and be the first one fired. Agree with that, Niner sickness. Agree with that. You only let him go if he cannot improve on what we're seeing on the field right now. It needs to be purely a talent, ability to develop talent and get them to play for you on the field. It should not be an instant reaction to, well, somebody's got to lose their job, and therefore they go D'Amico Ryans. That would not be fair to him as a first-time defensive coordinator. Kyle had to know there would be some struggles coming in. He had to expect that. And shame on him for not being more involved on that side of the ball if that is the case. All right, Eric coming in. I'd be fine being one and done making the playoffs. If Trey is playing and gets some playoff experience, but we know that Jimmy G will be QB1 while they have a chance to get there. That would be unfortunate not to get the experience for the young gentleman at all. I will be devastated if we get no experience for Trey and we're left wondering what we really have there. Man, didn't notice it at first, but Randon coming in with the super chat. Really appreciate it. Shout out. Team setback missing on top picks. Yeah, 100%. You cannot go an entire draft and basically get nothing from them. You have one player really contributing at this point in Elijah Mitchell. And yes, he's contributing quite a bit to this point, but you've got to hope for more. It is unacceptable to get such little production from this draft class. And I do think that's the reason John Lynch could end up losing his position at the end of the year if you don't see some improvement from those rookies. Brandon coming in, our resident Colts fan. 49ers going to have to pull an upset or two. You guys have the talent, should run the ball more. Even opposing fans get the idea of running the ball more for the 49ers. It seems so simple to most of us. But Shanahan has been unwilling to really commit to it so far this season. You got to hope that he really does wake up there and begins to run all over people. Run all over people. All right, trying to get to some more questions here before we run out of time. Here we go. Ellis 10 at Rob Schuh. People said that Gruden would never return to the Raiders after they selfishly traded him to the Tampa Bay Bucks. Jed needs to call Jim Harbaugh and beg for forgiveness. I am fine with that idea. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. And then Ellis comes back in with the super chat. Great content, Rob. As always, yo, hit that like. I appreciate that, Ellis. I really do. So kind of you to send in that super chat and appreciate you using that to talk about the like button, which amplifies my voice and helps me out. I really, really do appreciate that. All right, continuing on, catching up in the comments section before we run out of time. We're only about 7 minutes behind right now. This is interesting. Acebra says, times have changed. Social media has changed the game. Easy place to write frustration. I wonder if it's toxic for the players as well, Acebra. I wonder if they see it and it affects them negatively, because we're seeing such a lack of confidence in this team and so many players with what appears to be less heart than they need out there on the field. And, you know, it makes you wonder if they read all the frustration that is out there and what impact that might have on their psyche. That would mess with me. That would mess with me. All right, Thomas coming in. Here we go. Hey, Rob, I'm at the casino for my 36th birthday tomorrow. Happy early birthday to Thomas Luttrell. The last time the 49ers drafted a cornerback in the first 2 rounds, I was a senior in high school. Whoa. Related, out of top 16 highest paid cornerbacks, only one drafted later than the second round. The 49ers have failed to address the cornerback position. They deprioritized it, said we will build a dominant defensive line and we won't need elite cornerback play. We can get by with average or slightly above average cornerback play. That hasn't been the case. They have not survived with that average, slightly below average cornerback play. It has been an Achilles heel. It's time to invest. It is time to bring in somebody at this point. You need some talent in that room. You need somebody who can lock down opposing number 1 wide receivers. DeAndre Hopkins wasn't even in the game, and we got beat so handily by the Arizona Cardinals. Can you imagine if he was playing? If Kyler Murray had been playing, that 50-13 prediction for the Rams game might be light for the 49ers. They definitely need a spark there. You would think adding some talent to the cornerback room would be helpful. I like the idea of investing the second round pick on a cornerback next season because obviously we don't have the first round pick, which is unfortunate. Tommy pointing out that Fred Warner really not having a good year. This is true. I mean, you could say he's still fundamentally somewhat sound, some missed tackles, but not a whole lot from Fred specifically, but he's getting washed out a lot. He's not made any splash plays at all. And I learned today that he's blitzing significantly fewer attempts this year, which I thought was going to be the opposite. Didn't we hear in the offseason that this was going to be a slightly more aggressive style of defense that would capitalize on Fred Warner's skill at rushing the passer? He has very few attempts where he is blitzing, even with the blitzes that were thrown in against Arizona that seemed to be ineffectual to some point. I look for Fred to bounce back. He's one of the leaders I am turning to and pleading with to somehow get a spark back in this team. Karthik asking, do I know when Greenlaw is coming back? Alshire is not a good neighbor to 54. I don't, but it should be. He is eligible soon, and you would think that would help out to get his partner in crime back. Definitely believe that Greenlaw is missed. Harold agreeing with that. Greenlaw is really missed. He did cover a lot of ground. Great sideline to sideline. Jesse coming in. I think even if Trey doesn't look good, that doesn't mean he isn't ready. A la Lamar Jackson and Josh Allen didn't look that great their first year either. I say start him after the Rams game. I think a lot of 49ers fans are definitely on that same page with you. Moss talking about, it's over, y'all crying in my beer. It's over, crying in the beer. No, 49ers fans, some of us remain optimistic, even if it's misplaced, but we're acknowledging the faults here for sure. For some people, though, it does feel like it's over and they have given up on this season. And, I get it if you're that frustrated. You can't always have a negative influence in your life. Football is supposed to be a positive thing. If it's bringing you down, I get you needing to eliminate that. For me, I can't. It's too big of a part of my life. I love it too much. Thomas talking about Kittle. Did you know Kittle missed games in college? Missed rookie camp games before Jimmy G got here. Halloween 19 was on a run play. September 20 was Jimmy G's fault. Mullins was quarterback when he went on IR. Stop saying it's Jimmy G's fault. That's fair. It is not Jimmy G with the hospital balls that has been George Kittle's undoing. Some of those have not helped. There have been a couple of plays where you wonder if a better thrown pass would have saved Kittle from injury, but I believe it to be Kittle's physical playing style that leads to that injury. And again, as I said earlier, I would not trade one for the other. I definitely want his playing style to be there on the field. It makes me thrilled to watch the passion that Kittle plays with at this point in time. And I hope that he continues along that way and plays his heart out for the 49ers throughout the end of his career, quite honestly. Luke Luna coming in. I think we should give Trey playing time, win or lose against the Rams. He doesn't have to start, but let him have a few run-pass options in a row through each game. I am on with this, Luke. I say snaps for Trey. You've got to get him prepared. I said it earlier in answer to one of the questions, which was this idea that you said he would need to come in and spot starts for Jimmy, but then you failed to get him ready. So get him some snaps, get him some positive plays while you're riding Jimmy as you're mathematically not eliminated. Absolutely. Absolutely. Harold asking, will Greenlaw and Norman interceptions be the only interception this season? Hope not. We really have not been able to generate those turnovers, and that is sad at this point in time. Steve-O commenting on the missing leaders badly. Gotta hope that there are some leaders who can step up in this one. Have to hope that. Steve-O pointing out only 2 takeaways this year. Dude. All right. Come on Friday, Did I miss the 3 things you would change if I'm in charge? You're given the keys. What's the call? If I am in charge, the 3 things I change, if I'm Jed York, well, I think it's too late to change the things that I would change. I think it was a failed strategy coming into the season to believe that you could both invest in the quarterback of the future and ride Jimmy Garoppolo. Now, I didn't know that at the time, so I think I would have made the same mistakes that the 49ers are making right now. I'm just going to be transparent about that. Hindsight is 2020. Now that I know the answers, I think I could have gotten it right. But at the time, they sold me on that bill of goods as well. I believed, well, all Jimmy needs to do is stay healthy, play above average quarterback play, which he has shown on occasion to be able to do for extended periods of time. Get his confidence back, and then Trey will be there to take us on into the glory years ahead. Everything just fell apart, and things have gotten ugly. It has to, for me, go back to that decision to try and ride 2 different strategies heading into the season. That, to me, was the biggest mistake, for sure. Rolling through, trying to get caught up before we get to the end of this show. We're at 6:30 now, so I am going to answer. There were 2 last-minute suggestions, last-minute submissions, late submissions for the mailbag here. I'm going to go through those, and then we're going to wrap it. Lyle Shamaham asks me, who wins in a street fight? No parental assistance allowed. Kyle Shanahan or Jed York? To me, this one was all about the parental assistance qualifier. It changed my answer. If Denise DeBartolo York gets tagged in, it's over. I've got my money on Jed York. Denise DeBartolo York, as a blood relation to Eddie D, she's winning that fight. She's winning that fight. Just Jed against Kyle. I'm thinking probably Kyle. He's wiry, much like myself, and the kicker from the replacements. Yes, indeed, that is my choice. If it's straight up Jed on Kyle, I'm taking my money's on Kyle. Jed's got the bulk on him, though, so maybe if he gets him to the ground, could be a better fight. Eric H. on Twitter, my other last-minute submission, when are we going to hear from Jed York? Will he let us know if he's finding this season acceptable or not? As much as I do want answers from Jed, personally, I am glad he's staying quiet at this point. I got to respect it because I bet he's dying to say some stuff. Good for him. Good for him for keeping his mouth shut at this point, for not interjecting himself into this situation and making it worse. Because you know he could. You know that he could chime in and let us know his opinion and make this thing worse. And I'm glad he hasn't. Eric, I appreciate you calling this out. Be sure to subscribe, hit the bell to get notified of that future content. That takes us to the end of the mailbag. I've got a live stream coming up at 7 p.m., so I need a little break in between now and then. I appreciate everybody joining us for the live mailbag. If you want to know how to submit your questions ahead of time for the next mailbag, you can hit me at 49ersmailbag@gmail.com. Give me a follow on Twitter at the left Schuh, SCHUH. Hit me up on the DMs there, or leave a question in the comments below this video. I'll look here before I do next week's mailbag. Any way you get that question into me, I absolutely will take that question and give it my all. I always try to put significant time into those previously submitted questions because I do appreciate people taking the time to type them out and send them in. I really do. I appreciate all of you in the chat. We'll get a couple last ones in here. Austin Arroyo, yo, what's good, Rob? Drop by late because I was finishing a C++ program for college. Hope all is well and get that positivity going. We need it. I am working myself back into a place of confidence. I still think the 49ers have a shot to just play more efficiently, to just stop the penalties, to just allow the lights to come on, to play with some fire. It is possible. Don't expect it, 49er faithful. Don't build up that expectation, but keep those hopes alive, please. Last one here coming in, Luke Luna with the super chat. Stay faithful, show heart, stay golden. Luke, you have inspired me. Coming in, challenging all of us in the faithful to be a little more positive, have a little bit of faith and encouragement for the 49ers. Hey, you know I bleed red and gold. I will be cheering my head off on Monday night. No question about it. I will never root against my San Francisco 49ers. I don't care what the odds are. I'm going to go in with my hopes high. I hope all of you do as well. Luke coming back in with the super sticker. Appreciate it, Luke. Appreciate all of you for coming in. I'm sorry it's not on a brighter note that we have this letdown after the Arizona Cardinal games, but the night is darkest before the dawn. And maybe, just maybe, we turn this thing around, because it ain't over yet, faithful. Don't give up. Don't give in. Persist. Stay faithful. Have hope. Have fun. And I'll see you next time, Niner faithful.